Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back. We will be starting with the lecture 2, which is a continuation of different sustainable city theories. In the previous lecture, we had seen that how changes in technology in terms of transportation modes as well as industrialization brought about the change in living standards as well as in city development, and that led to urbanization. So, gradually when with the green movement in 1970s, a lot of changes were happening that put environment in focus, considering any kind of development, and sustainable development, concepts of sustainable development and thereby the measures of it also started to form at this time. So, people gradually discovered the benefits of a compact city model, particularly the ones that they had experienced in European model. So, the European compact city or mixed use city essentially focused on block development or perimeter block development that we have seen in Paris and Barcelona, etc. So, those cities were mixed use, they were compact and they had limited commute time, travel time as well as limited travel distances. So, the compact city theory and the superiority of the block development typology was gradually finding more and more takers in comparison to the separate, the high rise development or the functional city. So, walkability centered urban design was explored during this time. Because of the redevelopment which was necessary after World War II, people also started to look into other types of development which is not complete demolition of existing cities, but instead of that let us go for a redensification of cities as far as possible, and along with redensification also adaptive reuse of certain parts which can no longer be utilized in its original form. So, we see a more identity oriented theories in case of urban design as well. So, while sustainable development was explored at a larger scale or at a macro scale, the type of development or impact of neighborhood development and how it is linked with sustainability was also carried out in other at urban design level. So, people were looking at more efficient and effective ways of reviving older urban areas and of increasing the vitality of urban areas. So, in that case again Jean Jacobs' work was extremely influential, because she talked about the benefits of having a higher population density. She talked about benefits of having or embracing diversity and how it is linked to improving vitality of a space as well as that will finally lead to sustainable development. So, in there we also find out that the functional city models were gradually failing to bring about that integration between land use and public place usage. And one such momentous situation was when the Pruitt housing was finally taken down. So here people were focusing on embracing flexibility, sustainability in themes and in narratives. So gradually people again starting to move from separation of land use to actively embracing mixed land use, and instead of focusing on the international style, which was having a standardization because of due to the use of glass facades, because of the use of a particular pattern or typology of development, people again looked in and were going to embrace the individuality of urban individuality that was led by urban design, that was driven by urban design of each place. And from a standardized global view, our focus shifted to a more localized view, where people will focus on the local materials, the local traditions, local cultures and local supply chains in meeting its demands, which was found to be the basis of sustainable development. So in 1987, sustainable development was defined as a development that meets the need of today, while also keeping in mind the needs of tomorrow and not compromising on the future generations. So findings of the International Conference on Assessment of Carbon Dioxide and other greenhouse gases in climate variations led to the development of the IPCC, and we have had about 6 reports of IPCC that is providing us guidelines about how to continue with urban development so as not to go towards the tipping point where sustainability overall will be compromised for all generations. During this time also, alternative theories of city development were explored, and where high density living along with mixed use development was found to be a viable solution as a city development mechanism. And we find the examples of Curitiba, Copenhagen and Barcelona, which emerged as model city. So in here there were also further experimentations which were Auroville, Arcosanti as well as Curitiba, because they explored different variations of economic development, social norms as well as ecological concerns in their own way. So in 1992 again in the Rio Earth Conference, the local Agenda 22 focused on achieving sustainable development, and while this was happening, there was rapid urbanization happening in Southeast Asia, in the Middle East and in Africa, because as world population growth stabilizes over Europe and over North Asia or Northeast Asia, world population is going to increase in Southeast Asia and later shift towards Africa. So in these times of change, how should cities be developed and how to ensure that the development is sustainable in the long run has been explored through different city development theories. And the sustainable development goals which came into being and which were formulated in 2015, they are talking about different aspects of urban development and how they are related with aspects of infrastructure development as well as equitable development that has been put forward in details. So within the 17 sustainable development goals, we are going to focus on goal number 11, which deals with sustainable cities and communities. And the focus of this goal is to make cities inclusive, resilient and sustainable. As urbanization continues, So it leads to development of housing and infrastructure and services, and in such cases infrastructure and services are usually developed in response to the population growth. And therefore there is always a lag between the increase in population growth and later the infrastructure that is developed to cater to that burgeoning population. So this of course leads to several negative externalities, which is urban sprawl, which is air pollution, and which is limited access and inequitable access to various infrastructure and services necessary to lead a healthy life. Along with this, because of climate change and because of other activities, the frequency of disasters has increased a lot. So the frequency of natural disasters as well as man-made disasters has further made the vulnerable, significant amount of population vulnerable, and there has to be a way to improve the resilience of sections of population who are vulnerable, as well as to improve the resilience of the cities as a whole, to ensure that there is sustainable development. And in that case, there are 3 pillars to ensure that the development will be sustainable. These 3 pillars are focusing on affordable housing development, they are focusing on efficient transportation and green and access to green infrastructure. They are also focusing on equitable development and improving the accessibility for all. So the details of Sustainable Development Goal 11 are focusing on affordable housing. They are also focusing on sustainable transportation options. They are focusing on inclusive development by means of providing resilience or improving resilience to natural disasters. They are looking into preservation of existing cultural norms and natural heritage. They are also focusing on improving or measuring effective measuring of pollution and focusing on waste management. So with all these sections of the goal 11, we will be focusing on majority of them, and we will also be focusing on how to measure them effectively. So from the starting of city development stages, gradually it has been found out that people have focused on first urbanization, then people have moved towards suburbanization, and now the focus is again a re-urbanization and re-densification. So there is a balance to be achieved and a decision to be taken as to what should be the future of development, whether we should go for urban consolidation, which is again, this is the plan of Rome or Nolli's plan of Rome, which is again focused on high density development, high density mid-rise development, but very compact development. And in opposition, we have the other form of development, which is car dependent. This is again an example of Houston, Texas, which is known for the sprawl. And from there we come to the concepts of eco-city. So sustainable development, eco-city, green urbanism, 15-minute city, they are linked. There is lot of overlap between the definitions and how we are going to measure these. So another key concept that again is related to the way we measure sustainable development is the concept of ecological footprint. So if we look into ecological footprint, it is as was defined in the doctoral dissertation in 1996. So the ecological footprint, when compared against rate of urbanization, it was found to be having less linkage as compared to the level of the stage of development or the level of economic development and the overall ecological footprint. So, India as the most populous country right now, and also other countries in Southeast Asia which are extremely dense population wise, as well as the cities in Africa which are going to be the new centers of urbanization, the population is high, tremendously high as compared to European cities, but still the ecological footprint is considerably less. Why? Because of the overall balance that was achieved in these cities, which particularly if we look at the traditional city development in these areas, they were always focused on mixed use and balanced development. So, the balance is of course between travel time, travel distances and the different uses that a person can access. So, from here we move on towards green urbanism. So, green urbanism is again linked with sustainable development. The three pillars of green urbanism is urban planning and transport, water and biodiversity, as well as energy and materials. And within these three pillars we find several sub-themes which are intrinsically linked with sustainable development. We will be looking into each of these sub-themes as mentioned in Sustainable Goal 11, and we will be exploring the measures that should define, that should be used to compare the different cities, and the benchmarks or the thresholds that should help us in defining which is sustainable and which is not yet sustainable. So, we move on towards another sustainable city concept, which is the evaluation of eco-city. Eco-city is again looking into this balance between population density and land use as well as transportation, and it is actually actively looking into again the basic infrastructure services, and it's looking into the ecological footprint of residents in urban area. So, urban sustainable development is intrinsically linked with transportation and intrinsically linked with basic infrastructure availability and accessibility. So, we will be exploring these measures in details in the coming lectures, and finally we have come up to again the variations or the typologies of development that should be explored. So, whether we should move away from car dependent or car centric development towards more accessible development, which is focusing on non-motorized means of movement, moving away from monofunctional suburbs to mixed used centers, and that has to be inclusive, that has to be accessible by different socio-economic groups as well as vulnerable sections of the society. So, we have to focus on limiting greenfield development, we have to focus on densification of existing areas, and we also have to focus on adaptive reuse of spaces which can no longer support its original use, and we have to ensure that these three functions are happening to again provide a balance and to integrate the existing technological development. So, with this we come to an end of our second lecture. Thank you.